Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today. So for those of you who are new, my name is Tanya. I'm with Code Ninjas, and today what we're going to do, so I'm going to share my screen. And today what we're going to do is sort of a game where you have meteors or rock falling towards you, and we need to click on those meteors to make sure that they don't catch us and that they don't hit us. So when we start our game, I'm going to have to press the space bar to start. There we go. And then I can move. So when I click, oh, well, I should have clicked on them, but when I click on the rock, you're going to hear a sound effect. And if we have time, we will add the movements to control the rocket ship's movement. We're going to start off first without adding any movement, just in case we don't have all the time left to make that. But if we do have some extra time, then I'll show you guys how to add those things. So first, what you need to do is we need to go ahead and open up a new Scratch project. And we're going to need to add a couple of things. So let's go ahead and delete the cat. We don't need the cat. So for all of you who just joined, we're right about to start. So just open up Scratch. I'll give you guys a second to open it. And for those of you who are already on it, you can delete the cat. And there are three things that we first need to add to our game. We need to add a background because right now we don't have anything. And we're going to need to add 2 sprites. So let's go ahead and add a background. So if you guys remember, that's in the bottom right corner where it looks like there's a picture frame with a plus. So let's go ahead and click on that. So the game that I'm aiming to make right now is a space themed game. So go ahead and find some kind of background that has a space theme. So there's a galaxy, there's a nebula, and there's a moon, I believe. There's a couple others. There's Space City and Space. So you guys can pick whichever one of these that you want. I'm going to go ahead and pick the nebula. And then now that we have our background, we also need to add 2 sprites. So if you remember, the sprites are the objects and the characters that we control in the game. So to do that, you want to go to the cat with a plus on it. Again, this is in the bottom right corner, sorry. You can click on it, and we need to add 2 items, a rock and a rocket ship. So you can either scroll down all the way to R, or in the search bar, you can write rock, so R-O-C, and I'll put that, R-O-C-K, sorry, and I'll put that in the chat just in case someone wants to take a look. And you can click on rocket ship first, and then you're gonna go back, choose a sprite, and then go and click on the rock. So I'll give you guys just a couple of seconds to get all 3 of your objects, so your background and your 2 characters. And I'm going to put the 3 things that are needed in the chat. Okay, so if any of you are trying to catch up, just go ahead and take a look at the chat, and I wrote all of the things that we are going to add. Yes, you can put alien ships too. You can put any things that are falling down. You can kind of put any of the galaxy items that you want. Remember, you guys can change the themes as much as you want. I'm just gonna go with a space theme because we are going to make the rocket ship kind of spin around. So I like the animation of it. So now that we have them, if you see, the rocket ship's taking up all of the space and the rock is also pretty big. So let's click on the rocket ship first. And we want to go to where it says size. So I'm going to circle it on the Zoom call if you guys want to take a look. So in the middle bottom right side, there's something that says size 100. You want to click on that 100 and go with 50. So either 50 or 60 is pretty good for this game. And then once you've changed the size of the rocket ship, we're going to do the same exact thing for the rocks. So click on rocks and change it from 100 to, I think for the rock, 50 is a bit better. So I'm going to write those sizes in the chat. Okay, so we are going to start by coding the rocket ship because as of now, for the first part of our game, we're going to code it as if there's no movements to our rocket ship. And then if we have time, we will add in the movement. So if you guys go ahead and take a look at the costumes tab, so remember at the top left, there are 3 tabs: code, costumes, and sound. You want to go ahead and click on costumes. Oh, I'm in the rocket ship. Oops, sorry, in the rocket ship, yes. So if you see that there are 5 different costumes, and what they do is they make our rocket ship spin and they kind of flare down some like it looks like fire. So what we need to do, let's go back to code. So right where you clicked on costume, the tab right before it says code, and we're going to go ahead and first put the animation for our rocket ship. So we want the animation to start right off the bat. So we start our game by going to events and grabbing the when green flag is clicked and put that into your scripting area. Yes, so someone just asked if we can make a game over screen. I'm gonna show you guys how to make like an instruction screen first, and then if we have time, we'll do a game over. If not, you can use that same idea and concept to make the game over screen. And if we don't end up having time to do it, remember, I'll send you all of the game with like the finished code. We'll send it to you guys, and then you can always take a look at the code that we put in there. So here, let's go to control, and we're gonna grab our forever loop. So control is the orange blocks, and we're gonna grab a forever loop. And that's because we want the animation to happen over and over and over again. So to put in animation, we're gonna go over to looks, and you're gonna grab the block that says next costume. So from the looks in purple, you're gonna grab next costume and put it inside of your forever loop. Now, if you guys are curious to see what that looks like, go ahead and click on your green flag and see how the rocket ship's going really fast. If you like it to move that fast, then by all means, keep it. I'm just gonna slow it down a little bit because I feel like that's a little too fast for my liking. So for those of you who want to slow it down, let's go over to controls in the orange blocks. And you're gonna grab that wait 1 second and put it anywhere in the side of the forever loop. So either on top of next costume or under it, as long as it's inside the forever loop. And change that 1 second to a 0.1 or 0.2. So I'll add that in the block, in the chat for those of you who want to take a look. And now if you start it, it's gonna go slower. And that's because what we're telling it is to always wait 0.1 second and then next costume. And then it waits 0.1 second and then it goes to the next costume, so that it doesn't do that super quick effect that we saw earlier. Now we're gonna put in code to tell our game that if we end up running and getting hit by a rock, the game is going to stop. Now, for those of you who wanna add a game over background, I'll let you know where to add the code later. For now, we will keep it simple. So let's go to events, and we are gonna make a second script. So we're gonna make a second like paragraph and blocks of code. We're gonna grab another one of the when flag is clicked. And under this, we're gonna go to our control blocks, and there are 3 blocks in total that we need to grab from there. First, you're gonna attach that very first block that says wait 1 second. And that's just because we want the player to have a little bit of time before the meteors and the rocks start falling, or whoever you put as the enemy start coming towards you. So that's why we have that wait 1 second. Now, the next thing we need to tell it is we don't want the game to end before we get hit by a rock. So to do that, if you go down in the control blocks about halfway, there's a block that says wait until. What we are going to tell our game is to wait until it's touching the rocks. If any of you guys remember, when we talk about characters and sprites being in contact in this game and they're touching, this is in sensing, because the computer needs to sense whether or not the objects are next to each other. So you're gonna go to sensing in the light blue. and grab the very first block that says touching mouse pointer. And you're gonna go ahead and put it into that dark orange diamond shape that's after until. Now, we don't wanna wait until it's touching the mouse pointer, so we need to click on where it says mouse pointer and go to rocks, so that now when we read it, it says wait until touching rocks. I'll give you guys just a second to put those in. And then we need to make our way back to the control blocks in orange. And we need to grab one more block that says stop all. So this one is closer to the bottom, and you can grab it and put it all the way at the end of that script. Now we can't test this yet. We could test it, but it's not going to show us the full effect just because our rock is not doing anything yet. So before we test it, we're going to go ahead and go start coding the rock. For those of you who are still putting in this code, I'll keep it on my screen just for a little bit longer. And then for those of you who are done putting in this code, you can make your way over to the rocks sprite, or I think someone had aliens, someone might have some other kind of object, but just go to that second object that's going to be falling from the sky. Okay. So this object has more code than the other one. And the reason for that is because we need to clone it. So if any of you guys know what cloning means and what a clone is, you can write it in the chat, and then I will let you guys know what it is once we get to that part. First, let's go ahead and we need to actually, before we go over to the rocks, I want you guys to go to the stage. So if you remember, all the way on the far right side, there's something that says stage. So I want you guys to go and click on that first. Yeah, so a couple of you guys are getting the right answer. So cloning is, if you guys see it in the chat, that's okay, and then I'll tell you later. So let's go over to the stage. And what we need to do is create another background. So to do that, remember the same place where we usually go and click on costumes in the top left corner. You're gonna go and click on backdrops. There's a little paintbrush next to it. So I drew them on the board on the Zoom screen if you guys want to take a look at where to click. Now, if you notice, there are already two backdrops over here. There's a backdrop that is, for me, the nebula, because I chose that one. And then right on top of it, there's one that just says backdrop 1, and it's an empty backdrop. I want all of you to go ahead and click on that empty backdrop. And this is where we're going to put in that text that says press space to start. So I'm going to clear the drawings. And so to do this, if you take a look over on the left-hand side, we have a couple of icons. We want to put in text. So to go to text, you're going to click on the letter T. And then once you've clicked on it, you're going to see that there's going to be like a blue coloring around it. And now you can go take your mouse and just click anywhere inside this like checkered area. And you're going to get a very small light blue rectangle. And you can just start writing. Press space to start. And I will put the sentence in the chat in case anyone wants to copy it from there. Yeah, it's completely okay if you have a different backdrop. So even if you want to write on your backdrop instead of having an empty one, that is also fine. Just make sure you have a backdrop that says press space to start and another one that doesn't have one. So someone said they don't have a white backdrop and it's just a nebula. If that's the case, so for those of you who have a white backdrop right now, don't follow what I'm saying. If you don't have one, this is what we need to do. At the bottom, so on the left side, all the way at the bottom, there's something that says choose a backdrop. The same one that we used initially to pick our backdrop, but now it's on the left side. If you don't click on that, but you move your mouse up until you click on paint, it will create a blank backdrop for you. So I'll do that again. So if you go all the way to the left at the bottom, there's a picture frame with a plus. And if you just put your mouse on top of it without clicking, you're going to go to the second icon that says paint. It's a paintbrush, and that's going to create a blank background for you. So for those of you who just put in a backdrop, like the blank one, if you want to add text, you're just going to click on the letter T. You're going to click on the letter T, and then you're going to click anywhere in your page so that you can start writing. Yeah, so the sprites are still on the screen. We'll deal with that in a second. So I'll give you guys another 30 seconds to put in that press space to start. And remember, you can play around with the colors in the fill button to choose a different color if you want to. So someone asked, do we make it disappear? Do we make what disappear? The sprites? Yeah, so there is a way to make the letters bigger. So let's say mine right now is pretty small. I can't see it well. You want to click on the mouse pointer that's on the top left side of those icons. And once you click, and then you go and click on the text itself, and you're going to get those like dots all over the rectangle. You want to use those dots to manipulate whether it grows thicker, longer, and you can play around until you like the size and the way it looks. So we will make the sprites disappear in just a second, and we'll put all of that in. Okay, so I'll give you guys another 10 seconds to change your background and put this in, and then we will go ahead and code it. One says I don't have a mouse pointer. So if you don't have a mouse pointer, can you let me know what is that top left icon that you have? Because it's possible that you're on a different setup. A paintbrush. Okay. If you have a paintbrush, what you want to do is, do you see at the bottom, it says convert to vector? You want to click on convert to vector, and now you should have that, that mouse pointer that you can click on. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to code. And you're gonna go ahead and click on the rock again. So now is when we're gonna put in the movement of the rocks and the background change. So we need to start with the background change. What we're gonna do is in the rocks, you're gonna go to events in the yellow. We're going to tell it when the flag is clicked, and then make your way over to looks. And this part depends for what you guys want to do. If you want to hide the sprites at the intro, right under this when flag is clicked, you are gonna scroll down in your looks and grab a hide block. So now what we're telling is when the flag is clicked, the items are going to hide. And then you want to grab the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the seventh block in the looks that says switch backdrop to, it might be called nebula, it might be called something else. It's gonna say switch backdrop to. You want to click on whatever that word inside the bubble is. So mine says nebula right now. And you want to go ahead and pick backdrop 1 or potentially backdrop 2. So remember, the names are gonna be different depending on how you did your background. But I'm gonna write this in the chat just in case. I'll give you guys a second to put this in. Okay, now once our background switches to backdrop 1, that means it's this instructions page. We need to go ahead and tell it that it needs to switch to the other game one when we press on our space key. So to do that, you're gonna go to control. So I see a couple of you guys saying that it's hiding the rock and when are we gonna show? So just be a little bit patient and we're gonna get to that because we need to only show it when we switch our backdrop. Because if we tell it to show right away, it's gonna be showing on your intro page. So we're gonna add 2 more blocks and then we will tell it to show. So in your control blocks, you wanna grab the wait until, And remember, so it's going to say wait until, and there's going to be an orange diamond shape. And inside of this orange diamond shape, we need to go over to sensing in the light blue. And there's a block that says key space press. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about the 6th or 7th block, depending on if you're counting the oval block. And you want to put this key space pressed inside of your until. So yes, it's completely okay if you want to keep the rock on the intro page. So don't worry, if you want to keep the rock and the rocket ship on the intro page, that's completely fine. In that case, just don't add the hide. So now once we've told it wait until key space press, I'm going to zoom in a bit over here. We need to go all the way back to looks, and we need to do 2 things. We need our backdrop to switch to the actual game backdrop. So for me, it's nebula. It might be galaxy or stars or moon for someone else. And we need to make our object show. So let's go ahead and put this in. You're first going to grab a switch backdrop to, and then the name of the background that you chose, not the instruction. And then for those of you who hid your rock at the beginning, you need to tell it to show. So I'll put those blocks back into the chat while you guys put them in. If you guys have any questions up till now, you can put them in the chat. Okay, so the rock is gone. So the rock is going, so if you guys want to try this code out, click on your green flag and then press on the space bar. Once you click on your space bar, your background is going to change and your rock should come back as long as you put in that show. So if your background is not changing to the intro background, make sure you double check the name of your backdrop. So for example, you guys don't have to do this right now, but if you don't have the exact background, you want to click on stage, then you want to click on backdrops in the top left corner. And you have 2 backgrounds here that are going to tell you their names. So for me, the instruction background says backdrop 1, and my game background says nebula. These names are going to be different for each person depending on the background that you chose. So if your background changes isn't working, go to the stage and double check what the name of your background is. So I'm going to write those instructions in the chat while you guys try it out. For those of you whose code is working, just double check that when you click on your space key, things come into the game. No, so you're not coding the backdrop, but what you need to do, so I'll draw it on my on the Zoom screen. If you see, we have 2 blocks that say switch backdrop to something. We have the first one, which is above the wait until, and then we have another one that is under the wait until. Those names are going to be different for everyone. Because if you added another backdrop, so for those of you who didn't have the initial white backdrop, it's possible that when you click on this arrow, there's a whole bunch of options. It says backdrop 1, nebula, next backdrop, previous backdrop, random backdrop, and different things. You want to make sure you have the backdrop name that is corresponding to the instruction page. The second block, you want to make sure that it's your game background. Okay, awesome. So it's working for most of you guys. So for anyone, this backdrop change is not working. Just keep that in mind and you'll let me know at the end of the class and I can take a look a bit more and you can tell me exactly what's going on. For now, we're gonna move on and put in some more code for our rock. What we need to tell the rock is that when we click on that space key, which is telling it, hey, the game's about to start, it needs to start cloning itself every second. So to do that, let's go ahead and go to events. So now you're making a new script. You're gonna go when flag is clicked. And then we're gonna make our way over to the control blocks. So in the control blocks, we need 3 total blocks in here. We need to repeat this code over and over and over and over and over again, which means we need to add a forever block. So once you have a forever block, we then need to tell it to wait 1 second because we only want our cloning to happen every second. Otherwise, we're gonna have a whole bunch of clones and it's gonna be a harder game. You can change this number if you find that the game is too easy. And then after the wait 1 second, you're gonna go all the way down in control and use the create clone of myself. So I'm gonna put those into the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna write that in the chat again. So I'm gonna repeat the block. So it's when flag is clicked, forever. Inside of it, we need to tell it wait 1 second to make sure that it's not cloning like crazy. And then you want to tell it create clone of myself. And all of these blocks are in the orange control blocks. So now if you were to start your game and you can see, you're not going to see a difference in where the clones are. But if you grab the rock and you try to move it around, you're going to see that every second it's going to make a new clone and there's going to be a new rock that's hanging around. So if you see on my screen, I currently have 5 rocks and every second it's adding a rock. But right now they're hiding behind each other because we didn't tell them where to go. So if you don't see the rocks, don't worry about it. We're going to put in some code soon that's going to make sure that your rock is moving around so that it's not stuck in the corner. So let's go ahead and do that. What happens in Scratch when you make a clone is you actually need to tell it what to do because although it's the same item, it's not doing the same thing. So let's go ahead and get it so our clones are doing something. In your control block, you're going to grab the one all the way almost at the bottom that says when I start as a clone. So I'll give you guys a second to put that in. All right, so once you have that in, anything that we put under this when I start as a clone is it's going to be the code for those copies that we're making. So for those of you who don't see the clone, don't worry about it for now. Once we put in this new code right here, if you still don't see the clone, then let me know. So we need to go all the way back up to the looks block at the top. And we need to tell our clone to show. Now, we don't want all the clones and all of the copies to start in the same place. Otherwise, it's going to get super crowded in one place and nothing's going to happen elsewhere. So let's go over to our motion blocks and we need to grab 3 blocks from here. First, we need to grab the go to X and Y. Don't worry about the numbers for now. We are going to change them in a second. So don't worry if you have different numbers than me or if you're not sure what the numbers are going to be. We're going to go ahead and change those in a second. Under your go to X and Y, this is a little similar to how we did our game last time where we had people catching each other. You need the object to look towards where it's going. So there's a point towards mouse pointer block. Again, this is in your motion. You want to attach it and tell it to point towards, click on the word mouse pointer and choose rocket ship. So now each clone, no matter where it appears, it's always going to turn around towards the rocket and come towards it. And the last thing we want to put in here is telling it to move. So to tell it to move, you're going to grab the block that says glide 1 second to random position. And we're going to have to change this. So let's tell it glide 2 seconds. And instead of random position, click on that and choose rocket ship. So again, I will put all of this in the chat. I'm sorry if there's typing mistakes in the chat. I'm writing this super quickly, so sometimes I click on the wrong letter. Okay, I'll give you guys another 10 seconds to put this in. And I sent it in the chat in case anyone needs to double check their blocks. So now that go to X and Y, what are the numbers that we're putting in here? For Y, so if you guys remember, X is side to side and Y is up and down. We always want our clones to start at the very top of our page. So in the bubble after the letter Y, you are going to put 180, so 180. Yes, so someone was saying that when you click on the flag, in the intro, so the asteroids are coming towards you before you click on the space key, or are they coming towards you only after you've clicked on the space bar? Can someone try that out and let me know? Both. Okay, so we'll take a look at the code in just a second. So in this X position, we need to go over to the operators. And we need to click on the one that says pick random 1 to 10 and put it inside of the X position. Okay, so in those numbers, the X, remember, side to side, we need to put numbers that are going to go across the entire screen. So in the first one where it says 1, put -240. And in the second one, it's going to say 240. So I'm going to write this in the chat. So all the numbers are in the chat if you want to take a look at it. You can try out your game for now and see if it's working. So you shouldn't have any clones going on in the beginning of your game, only after you click on your space bar. So when you click on the flag, it's going to say press space to start. And if it's showing, let me try to do something here. Oh yeah, some of the code. Okay, I see what you guys are saying, that it's waiting a second. What we can do if this is happening for any of you guys, oh wait, I know why, sorry, this is my bad. So make your way over to the code where we said forever, wait 1 second and create clone of myself. So if any of you are catching up on the blocks, they're all gonna be on the screen. I'm not gonna move it for now, but go over to the code that says when flag is clicked, forever, wait 1 second and create clone of myself. So the second script that we put in. We don't want our code to start cloning before we press on the space bar. So I want you to grab that forever and move it downwards so that there's space between the when flag is clicked and the forever loop. And then I want you to delete that when flag is clicked. So grab it and move it all the way to the left side and let it go so it deletes itself. We need to put a different block in there. So the block that we need to put is if you go to your events, you're gonna grab the second yellow block that says when space key pressed. That way the cloning does not start until the player presses the space key. So once you've put that in, try it out and make sure that now it's working. There we go. Now it doesn't cause any issues. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna repeat just the go to X and Y position in case anyone was trying their game out while we were doing this part. So what we need to tell it is when I start as a clone, show, and then you need to go to X and Y from the motion blocks. Inside of the X, in the bubble after the X, you have to go to the operators in green and grab the block that says pick random 1 to 10. And you're gonna put it in the bubble after the X. So now it's gonna say go to X, pick random 1 to 10. Instead of the number 1, you want to put minus 240. And instead of the 10, you want to put 240. And then for the Y, you want to put 180 because that's all the way at the top of your page. So someone was saying that there's too many rocks. Okay, if you would like to slow down, so we're going to put in some code right now that's going to help you delete it. So don't change anything about how many rocks are coming down. Try it out when we add this other code to see if you like the speed, and then I'll show you guys how to slow it down. What we need to tell the rock, the way that we can destroy them is by clicking on them. So to do that, if you go to the event blocks in yellow, there, the third block there says when this sprite clicked. And what that means is when you actually physically click on it with your mouse. So what we need to do is a couple of things. We're gonna add a scoring system. If you guys want, again, this is optional. So if you want to make a scoring system, go down to the variables in orange, and you're gonna click on the box that says make a variable, and you can call it score. And then you can click on OK. Now we need to do two things with our variable. Remember, we always need to tell it to go to 0. We'll add that in a second, but we also need to tell it when to change. So we want the variable in our score to go up every time we click on a rock. So to do that, you're gonna grab the change my variable by 1 and attach it under when this sprite clicked. And make sure you click on the word my variable and you change that to score. Now, if you start your game and you click on a couple of the rocks, oh, okay, wait, never mind. It's not gonna delete yet. Your score is gonna go up, but the rocks aren't gonna delete yet. So if you click delete my variable, it's gonna delete the entire thing. So don't go to delete my variable. What you also wanna grab from here is the set my variable to 0. Now, don't attach it to anything. Just grab set my variable to 0 and change my variable to score. Remember, at the very start of your game, so when the flag is clicked, we always need to reset our score. So let's go ahead and do that. Go over to events in yellow, and you're gonna grab a when flag is clicked and attach it to set score to 0. Now, if you tried out your game while I was talking, then you would have noticed that even if we click on the rocks, our score is going up, but the rocks are not going anywhere. They're not deleting, and there's no sound effects. So we don't really, as a player, we don't notice that they're gone. So let's go and add some sound effects. To do that, if you guys remember, we have those 3 tabs at the top: code, costumes, and sounds. You want to go ahead and click on sounds. Once you're there, we need to go all the way at the bottom left side where there's a volume button with a plus. It kind of looks like a volume with lines with a plus. You can go ahead and click on that. And now it's going to take you to this entire page with a whole lot of like sound effects and songs. You guys are free to use whichever you want. I'm only going to give you a couple of seconds to choose one. So I will go ahead and suggest the sound pew. It sounds like, oh, that's really loud in my headphones, but it sounds like a little like laser shot. So you guys can pick that one if you want, but if not, then just go ahead and click on any sound that you want. I'll give you guys maybe 10, 15 seconds. And when you like the sound, then go ahead and just click on the white picture, the white box. If you want to listen to the sound, you just want to put your mouse on the purple play button. So to get the sound effects, at the very top, we have 3 tabs: code, costumes, and sounds. You want to click on sounds, and it's going to take you to kind of this page where there's like a super long purple block. You want to go all the way at the bottom left side. So in the very, very left bottom corner, there's a little volume button with a plus on it. You can click on that. It says choose a sound. And then to listen to the sounds, you put your mouse over the purple. To click on a sound that you like, you just click on the actual volume button. And if you want to search any sound, like the pew pew sound, then you can click in the left search bar and you can write that in. So I'll write the name of that sound in the chat in case someone wants it. Okay, so let's go ahead and go and finish up the code for our rock. Remember, if you put a sound in now and you don't like it later on, you can always go back and change it. All of this can be changed if you guys want to edit it later on. So to add the sound effect, we need to go to the light purple pinkish sound blocks. And we have 2 options here. We have play sound pew until done, and we have start sound. When you guys want to add in sound effects, not a song, when you want sound effects, you need to use the start sound and then the name. The reason for that is because it won't slow down your other code. Play sound until done. It will listen to the entire song before it goes to the rest of your code, which sometimes can slow down the rest of your game. So you're going to tell it start sound pew. And then we need to go to the control blocks because we still need a way to take away those clones. So to do that, in the control orange block, you're going to go all the way, the very, very last block that says delete this clone. You're going to add it under the start sound pew. So I'm going to click, and then now if you try it out, every time you click on a rock, your score should go up. You should hear a little sound effect. And the third thing is that clone, so that copy is going to delete itself and go away. So I want you guys to try that out. I'll give you just a little bit of time to move this around and give it a try, make sure everything works well. It didn't make a sound. Okay, I'm gonna click on the mirror. Yes, okay, so I'll answer both of those questions in a second. So if you click on it and it didn't make a sound, I'm gonna put in the code in the chat just to make sure that you have, like all the blocks are the correct one. Okay, so for any of you whose clone is not deleting, try to follow and make sure you have the same blocks that I just wrote in to the chat. And someone said that when you click on the main rock, it doesn't delete. So that's because remember how we added a show block in the very, very first script that we made. So remember in the code that says when flag is clicked, hide, switch backdrop, wait until key space is pressed, and then switch backdrop to nebula. At the very bottom, it says show. Take away that show. If you don't want the original rock to show up, grab the show and delete it. Okay, so is there any way to make a laser? So there are ways to make a laser. That's something that I could try to add to the game later. So we won't have time to add it in now. But if you want to make a laser, try it out on your own. And then if you have any questions at all, like specific questions about it, send us an email and I can go through it and I can write the steps out for you if you want that. There's a rock, right? Yes. So for all of you who see a rock under your score, go back to the very, very first script that we made. That's the one that starts with when flag is clicked, hide, and take away the show block that we have all the way at the bottom. So someone said your score is stuck at 223. So if your score is stuck, make sure you have a block that says when flag is clicked. I'm going to write it in. Set score to 0. So that resets your score. Okay, I'm just going through the chat to see if you guys have any questions. So just 1 second. Okay. So when you click on the rock, it doesn't delete. So I will rewrite that code in just a second. So for those of you who are clicking on the rock and it doesn't delete, can you write the code that you have for when this sprite clicked into the chat so I can take a look at what's going on? Yeah, so someone who was giving an idea of how to make a laser, that's definitely one way that you can tell it to show up. When you click on the rock or on the object, then it can show. For those of you who don't have any questions, yes, we are done for today with this game. Make sure you save it. The rocket doesn't move. The copy that I will send you with the completed code will have a rocket that moves. So you can feel free to go ahead and compare your code to that one and add it in to add some extra stuff to it. Yes, so to add the code that needs to remove the score, take a look over at my Zoom screen right now, and I'm going to circle that code in red. This is the code that you need to add if you want to reset your score. If you missed a couple of things, don't worry about it. We're gonna send you the recording of this lesson in the session, and you can always go back and watch it and double check. Okay, so if you have when this sprite clicked change score by 1, under that, you need to tell it to delete this clone. So I'm gonna grab that code and I'm gonna put it right next to here. And I will circle that code in, let's see, I'll circle it in blue. And take a look over at this code. For any of you whose rocks are not deleting, take a look at the code that I just circled in blue. That should be under your when this sprite clicked. And yes, when the rock hits the ship, the game is just ending there. Yes, for those of you who are okay with what we're done so far, then yes, you can go ahead and go. I'll show. So a couple of you are asking what the code is to make a game over. So I'll show you that super quickly. We only have a couple of minutes left. So I'm just gonna double check that there's no other questions about the code that we've done so far, and then we'll move on to that one. So someone asked about the code for the rocket ship. So I'll send you, so we're gonna send a recording of this with the game and all the instructions, and just make sure you double check that so you can check for the code. Because we don't have all the time left to go over it again, so make sure you can look at the video. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase the drawings, and let's go and make a backdrop switch for when you win. To do that, you want to go back to your stage. And just like you made a backdrop that said, press space to start, you want to make another one. So go ahead and create a new background to paint it and follow the same steps where we write you win using the same tools you used to make the press space to start. So yeah, I'm gonna go through this part just relatively quickly. So if you used all of them, this is when you need to create a new backdrop. To make a new backdrop, go to the bottom where it says choose a backdrop, the bottom left, and click on the paint, and that's gonna create an empty backdrop for you. So I see a couple of you asking about how to make the score. So I'm gonna write this in the chat. Okay, so once you have this you win backdrop, what we need to do is you can go over to your rocket ship, and we can put the code, or sorry, actually go over to your rock. It'll be easier to put it there. So go over to your rock, and under where we have switch backdrop to nebula, we are going to tell it, go to your control and grab wait until. So this depends on when you want your game to end. Let's say that we want the game to end when you get a score of 15. You're gonna go over to operators and grab the equal sign so that we tell it to wait until our score is equal to 15. You're gonna wait until, then grab the equal sign from the green operators, and then go down to your variables. And you want to grab that orange score bubble and put it in the blank, one of the blank spots where it says equal. So right now it's gonna say wait until score is equal to 50, and just change that to a smaller number. Or if you wanna keep it at 50, then you can keep it at 50. And then you're gonna make your way over to looks again, so the purple blocks. And you're gonna tell it to switch backdrop to, it might be called backdrop 2 right now. So remember, the name of the backdrops is gonna be different. So make sure you check to see what's the name of your backdrop. Okay. So now you have your switch backdrop to backdrop 2, but we need to make sure that the game stops. We don't want rocks to keep falling at you if you've won. So you're gonna go back to the control blocks and grab the stop all that's all the way at the bottom. So I'm gonna keep it on the screen, and I'm gonna circle the new code that we just added in case anyone wants to take a look at it. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, let me know. I'll stay on for another minute or two. And then again, just remember to save your game. So if any of you forgot how to do that, you want to go to File and then click Save Now. Okay, so to make a you lose screen, it's going to be very, very similar to what we just did. You want to go to your, stage. You want to go to the backdrops, and then you want to create a new backdrop. So you're going to go backdrops, create a new one, and you can write you lose. And once you have your backdrop, remember in the rocket ship, we told it to check if it's touching the rock. So make your way over to the rocket ship. And there's a block, a script that says when flag is clicked, wait 1 second, wait until touching rocks and stop all. You want to bring down that stop all, so there's space between them. And then go over to looks in the purple and grab the block that says switch backdrop to backdrop 3 or whichever number, and make sure that it says that. So when you say your score doesn't change back to 0 at the end, do you mean when you restart your game or when you lose the game? Like, is it during when you're playing the game, or is it when you click on your green flag? Okay, so if it's not restarting when you start your game again, go over to the rock. And there's 2 blocks that you need to add in. I'm going to write them in the chat just in case. But you want to tell it when flag is clicked from the yellow events. And then under it, you're going to grab set score to 0 from the variables. So I'm going to circle that for you on the screen. If you guys don't have any questions left, then you are free to go. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Okay, awesome. So someone asked, how do you make a laser? So we were out of time, but what I will do is I can add some laser effects onto it before we send you the final game. So it won't be in the video, it won't be in the recording, but it will be in the Scratch game that we'll send you a link to. So you can take a look at that and you can use it that way and you can copy the code from there. All right, so have a good weekend and we'll see you next time.